This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Rocking and rolling on this Tuesday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the sports betting network, Sirius XM channel 158. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. We're live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. One more hour to go here, plenty to get to. We're going to puck around and find out in about 15 minutes, get into what is a 10-game NHL card. I know we've both got some college hoops on the brain, had a great discussion with VSiN's own Adam Burke in the last hour, which good reminder. In case you missed any of the show today, you can always download Money Moves in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. Also chime in. We want to talk to you. Tweet at us at MeJVT, at Storm Buonantony, at VSiN Live. We also have an email for those of you that aren't big Twitter fans. You can go to moneymoves@vsin.com. That said, Super Bowl 60 is officially set, and I know we're going to be talking about this game a ton over the course of the next 2 weeks as the Seattle Seahawks and New England Patriots get set to go head-to-head. We mentioned it briefly earlier, but we've seen our first official really big marquee bet here at Circa, where we're broadcasting from, a $1.1 million wager coming in on the Patriots at plus 188 on the money line, would pay out around $2.1 million. And we had Jeff Sherman on the program yesterday saying that the sharp money, at least initially, has come in on the Pats. But I'm sure this will change a lot over the course of the next 2 weeks, but worth noting. You know,
I always make the joke, so I do a Saturday program show out here on local radio and talk with John Murray, who's the VP over at the Racing Sports book, and he would tell me when we go over some of the big games of the weekend, like, we have sharps on both sides, and I always make the joke, what? Yeah, I thought sharps were all on the same side, and then that is not the case. So I do find it interesting that narratively, you know, you look on social media, you look around a little bit in some of the sports betting circles, and the thing that is getting pushed out there right now is that the sharps are on the Patriots. I would venture a guess that you're going to see sharp action on both sides by the time we get to the game itself on Super Bowl Sunday. And as Adam alluded to, you know, there's a lot that goes into Super Bowl bets. First off, big bets aren't necessarily sharp bets. Some, when you get some of these big figureheads like a Mattress Mac, are used for different means. So always keep that in mind. You know, this is where everybody gets involved. And we've talked about this in years past. Humans and I have just covered it. We can talk about it with odds makers in the weeks leading up to the game itself, which is this is a game that by the time you get to kickoff, the public will have its strongest influence on as well. So we will see that. And this is always the other phenomenon, which we're seeing as part of this bet, is you generally get a pretty cheap money line favorite in the Super Bowl because you will get action on the dog, and that'll get bet down, and that'll get you to a point where maybe you get a spread that is in one spot, but the money line should be somewhere else. But considering the action on the money line, you'll get a little bit of a cheaper favorite on the money line price.
So as someone who likes the Seattle Seahawks side as of now, and if you remember, the look ahead on this was Seattle minus 3.5, came out to as high as 5. 4.5 is really where we've settled, at least for now, although as we get closer to game time, I'm sure this will be all over the place. But if you are like me and you like the Seattle Seahawks and you think that this is a team that's going to win at margin, do you start looking at some alts? Like, is that one way to approach this and see if you can get some plus money on Seattle to win by a touchdown or more?
I think so. I mean, so I'll go back to last year. Last year, I liked Philadelphia a lot, and I thought that they were going to be able to blow them out. So I played a bunch of alternates around key numbers all the way up to, I think it was 20.5. So that, I think, is, and it wasn't every number in between, because some spots you can go 17, 18. No, but it was the key numbers up there. So, yes, I think you can do something like that. If you're a Seahawks fan, you know, I'll steal Gil asked the question last year, and I'll steal it from him, which is, if there is a blowout here, which of the sides is the one that is blowing out the other most likely?
I think it's the Seattle
side. So if that is the case, then if you do like Seattle, I think you can find yourself in a position to play some alternate lines. I think the real question becomes, do you play them now? Going back to what we've been talking about, where does the market move by the time we get to kickoff? Is there a chance that by the time we get to Super Bowl Sunday, this is a 3.5-point spread, and thus some of the alternates that you want to play, you're getting a little bit more out of if you wait till you play them closer to game time? By the way, I'll probably be with you maybe in that.
Okay.
I like Seattle. We should just put that out there. I've kind of been pretty clear on that for a few weeks now.
You said even going into the conference championship game that if there was like one clear-cut team that felt like if there were to be one that's the most dominant, it was them.
Yeah. So there's no reason, I think. I haven't seen anything that would make me get off my horse. In fact, I guess I've seen something to make me buy another horse. Is that part of the analogy? Because Sam Darnold looked great in that game, and it looked like that oblique wasn't really bothering him, and now we get 2 weeks for him to be on the mend before we get to the Super Bowl.
From the Drake May shoulder injury standpoint, I know that's been a big topic of conversation. Mike Vrabel was on WEEI local radio out there in New England and said there's not a player on our team that's 100% healthy right now, and that some of the shoulder stuff with Drake May, while he didn't directly answer the question, says probably a little bit overblown. So take that information for what it's worth. That said, Mike Vrabel and company certainly know the challenge that is ahead and what it means and what it takes to get to a Super Bowl. Of course, he went through that experience as a player, and he discussed some of that with the media this week. Take a listen.
It wasn't just one guy. Drake played really well, and I think our defense continued to grow. And you can see here in the playoffs and in the conditions, help today, but the defense continued to grow, and we got plays from our special teams. And offensively, we kind of ran into a buzzsaw here with the three teams, which you're going to do in the playoffs. So whoever we play in 2 weeks is going to have a good defense.
Well, just for you personally as a coach, just how it seems like you have their ear in just how they've responded to all the challenges. I'm saying. Yeah,
I appreciate that, and they have been a very coachable group. Yeah. And again, I don't know if they always knew why we were doing stuff, but I told them whatever is going to happen in this game, we've practiced it. You've either done it in a game or we've practiced it, and they believe in that. And so those 2-minute operations and training camp or the 2-minute operations and the Friday practice that seems redundant. The longer you go, you have to be able to execute in critical situations, offensively and defensively.
So for those of you who are buying what Mike Vrabel is selling and you think that the Patriots are the right side, you think that they can add another Lombardi to the trophy case, at least want to give you this. The last 3 Super Bowls, the underdog has won outright. The last 5 dogs have at least covered, dating back to 2015. They're 6-4 outright, 7-3 against the number. This is the largest Super Bowl spread we've seen since the Rams were 4.5-point favorites against the Bengals and did not cover in 2021. The last 7 teams JVT favored by at least 4 in the Super Bowl have failed to cover the spread, with 5 of those 7 losing outright. So it has been trendy and favorable for dogs in recent history.
Yeah. You know me. I'll probably throw that out. And
of
all
course.
Those are
I
isolated.
know, but I just like to give the people information.
Yeah, sure. And some people buy into it. And if they fail to cover, then that'll be why, as opposed to maybe some other reasons why. I think he hit on one of the key things here for this Patriots team. You can say we're Boston haters. You can do whatever you want. The whole thing here is that Drake May in 3 games in the postseason is completing less than 50 or 60% of his passes. He has thrown 4 touchdowns and committed 5 turnover-worthy plays. He's put the ball on the turf a ton. The play has not been as good from Drake May. And you can argue that it's because, as he said there were some buzzsaws on defense, I think was the quote that was that Vrabel said. This is, I don't know, what's the step up from a buzzsaw? A guillotine, whatever you want to call it. This is a Seahawks team that is very, very good on that end. That's not going anywhere. Drake May being under pressure is not going anywhere. Will Campbell, who has not played particularly well, that's not going anywhere. So that, to me, is going to be the big thing here is Drake May going to turn this around? Are the last 3 games an aberration? Are they a blip on the radar? Or is this something that's going to continue in San Francisco against what is arguably, of the 3, it's kind of, you said you weren't a big video game person. This is almost like a little bit of a video game where it's like a step up in competition almost every time. And now here you are, you're at the final boss, and you got to get this done. And this looks like a monster that you have to face if you're New England in this offense.
Well, and what's interesting is that you're talking about it from that side of the ball. And I actually look to the other side as well, where this defense has been given so much credit for how well they've played in the postseason, and that they've combined in these 3 games only given up 26 points. Well, one of them was in a snow globe in the second half against a backup quarterback in the Broncos. One of them was against the Houston Texans and C.J. Stroud, who was just coughing the ball up at will. And then one was a Chargers team that we haven't seen be able to deliver offensively in the postseason yet with Justin Herbert. So I don't really know what to believe with this defense either, all of which has lended me toward the Seattle Seahawks side of this thing.
Yeah, I think one of the things you can point to, according to some of these numbers, is the Patriots have at least made some changes. They are blitzing more. They are trying to send more pressure. They're trying to supplement our defense that doesn't have a pass rush, and maybe that has helped them. And I think they deserve credit for being opportunistic. I mean, when you get your hands on footballs, you got to be able to pick them off and hold on to them, and they are able to do that. And so that'll be big, too, because while this last game for Sam Darnold was brilliant,
it was clean.
He looked great. The other games from week 10 on, leading up to that one, were not good. And he was putting the ball in danger, and he had a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. If that Darnold pops back up, this is a defense that can make him look pretty mortal.
We are going to pick apart this game over the course of the next couple weeks. Worth noting as well, the menus at DraftKings and FanDuel, we are already seeing slowly start to expand. They're just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We already quoted Jeff Sherman and Murray at the Westgate Sportsbook. They are going to have their full reveal tomorrow night of the 400 plus props that they have out in Vegas. That's such an event. I feel like every year when the Super Bowl props come out there, same thing in the South Point, some of these other properties here, but there's going to be so much that we can get into for this. I am already mentally preparing and worried about having that paralysis by analysis thing where I'm going to start overthinking this. I feel so confident in the Seattle side now, but the more that I deep dive into all these different metrics and different prop markets as we're going, I'm going to talk myself out of stuff.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the fun of it.
That's what makes it great.
Yep. Can't wait to dive into the cross-sport props that are out there, too. Love those things, man.
Can't wait until we look at our overall bets for the season, and all of a sudden there's just 20 more out of nowhere on a given day. And reminder, everybody, as we do get set for the Super Bowl and Super Bowl 60, football meets flavor with VSiN and Omaha Steaks. You know it. They're the official sponsor of tailgating, and no better time to get fully stocked up than the big game. And right now, when you spend $129 over at Omaha Steaks, you can score 2 pounds of free fully cooked chicken wings plus 50% off site-wide. omahasteaks.com/VSiN. That's omahasteaks.com/VSIN is how you can do it. And again, spending $129 on omahasteaks.com is so easy. There is so much great stuff they have right now. And when you do, you get the 2 pounds of free wings, save 50% off site-wide. Minimum purchase may be required. Please see site for details. Again, omahasteaks.com/VSiN. So much more still to get to here on Money Moves. Why this headline I actually thought was fake ended up to be a reality. I mean, I almost get got on Twitter far too often, but this one was actually real. Enough with the Trey Mancini talk. We got to step aside. Time to puck around and find out first, but so much more NFL, college basketball, all to come here this hour on Money Moves.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
A little bit of breaking news before Stormy takes over here. Darian Mensah is expected to arrive on campus in Miami shortly. I wonder what he's going to do there.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, because I saw an announcement this morning, right?
Duke,
okay.
He's a free agent. I mean, sorry, he's a collegiate. He's
Let's just
athlete.
Just call it. We need to call it free agency now at this point. Unrestricted, it appears as well.
Hey man, tell you this: Miami's looking pretty nice to get back to a national championship next year.
Did you end up adding that because you talked about it when the odds first dropped?
I mean, do I want to? Do I want to invest in that a year out?
Have a full year-long wager in pocket?
Maybe. What are we at right now? Yeah, they're still 18 to 1.
They're going to be stacked.
Yeah, they're still 18. They're going to be really good.
Yes.
Although, did I see somebody enter the transfer portal for them? Did I miss that? Was that a fake one? Did Malachi Tony enter the transfer portal?
No, I think that was real. Was that real?
That was real. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was real.
That's the one thing that kind of gets me a little bit, you know?
I'm sure that they'll still be able to find. I mean, granted, he is obviously a special player and he's so young.
I mean, it also, to your point, that also just might be a ploy.
Yes.
Where it's just like, hey, I'm in the portal, and then Miami's just going to pay more money. And then.
Speaking of getting got on social media, though, I wasn't kidding last segment when we were teasing to what we have coming up. I thought yesterday when we were on the air and I was scrolling through Twitter for news that the Shedeur Sanders Pro Bowl thing was not real. Mm-hmm. But that's very much so real.
Oh, yeah, the Pro Bowl thing?
Yeah.
Right?
How did we get here with the Pro Bowl?
It's like, I mean,
Snoop Huntley was a Pro Bowler once, too, so I know that it's lost its luster for a while. But that's pretty astonishing, no?
We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm just going to say really quickly, I want you to remember this moment right now.
Okay.
When, in a week, because nobody has anything to talk about because they're all mouth-breathing morons, everybody will complain about the quality of the All-Star game in the NBA. Because The NFL Pro Bowl is an absolute joke at this point right now. And yet, we don't have like 60-paragraph think pieces about how awful the NFL Pro Bowl is because the NFL's smart. The NFL puts the Pro Bowl and hides it in the shadow of the Super Bowl. So by the time that Monday comes around, guess what happens? We're all on Radio Row. We're all talking about the Super Bowl. Everybody's in the city. Everybody's excited. So just remember this, okay? When we're having all of these stupid conversations post-Super Bowl because nobody can talk about anything else, because they haven't been watching college basketball, because they haven't been watching the NBA. So instead of actually talking about the sport, they'll just complain about the All-Star game. And the reality is the All-Star game of their favorite sport, football, is an absolute and utter joke. And guys like Shedeur Sanders, who threw more interceptions than touchdowns, are representing their teams. Just my 2 cents.
So, like, I'm just trying to figure out how that happens, though.
I don't know, alternates and then an alternate and an
alternate.
Yeah,
well, I know people drop out and they don't want to do it and whatever, but, like, for that to be the option makes zero sense. There is not a world with which that makes any sense.
I'll tell you what doesn't make sense.
It makes about as much sense as him having his jersey retired to Colorado.
I mean, I think what doesn't make sense is being a coach that developed a Pro Bowl quarterback and getting fired.
Right.
Kevin Stefanski was given the short end of the stick.
I mean, man, you had such typical. Speaking of sticks, want to puck around and find out here for a few minutes? Before we get to tonight's card, I do want to at least give a little bit of credit where it's due for the Edmonton Oilers here, who have the night off, but I would be remiss if we didn't mention the back-to-back hat-tricks by defensemen. Evan Bouchard had one on Saturday in their win over the Caps. He had an awesome day, by the way, 6-point night for him in that win over Washington. Matthias Ekholm then follows that up last night with 3 goals of his own as they beat the Ducks 7-4. Anaheim's Granlund had a hat trick as well last night, oddly enough, to sadly put an end to the Ducks' 7-game win streak. They were on a heater. JVT, my Ducks to make the playoff thing is still it's dicey.
It's the orangutan on the bed, right, with the heart monitor.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's dicey. We have fallen. Can we get up? Is the question. So strung together a few nice wins. We'll see what we can do moving forward from that.
Let me ask you something. Looking at this final right here, Edmonton's plus 330 to win this division. They have played 3 more games than Vegas, but I've talked about this, and we mentioned this yesterday. Vegas has 3 goaltenders on this roster as a 4 that have a sub-90 save percentage. Yeah. We've talked about their puck differential. How do you want to? What do you say? Point differential. Okay, I don't want to use the wrong terminology.
Well, there's goal.
You made fun of me when I said 1-score game a month ago.
There's goal differential, which
goal
is
differential, sorry,
what you're mostly looking at. But there's point differential as well.
But goal differential. Either way. Vegas, I think, has all the makings of a team that is not as strong as maybe the market thinks they are. Yeah. This team's plus 330 to win the division.
Yeah,
they're tied right now.
They both have 62 points right now. Edmonton is a team that we talked about a lot at the beginning of the season, how they were struggling, they were slow starting, but that's historically kind of what we have seen from this team in the past, the expectation that they would get it going. Very up and down, but they have. Connor McDavid's been playing significantly better. I do not think that's out of the realm of possibility at all. I think it's actually very likely.
And they still have 3 games left. They've only played 1 time. So that is the end. By the way, the Oilers have the win in the pocket in that one. So that is also something that helps. You know, I brought up to you a while back, it was the Sharks after the trade last week and mentioned, hey, what about the division? You know, they were 0-for against a couple teams. Like, they played pretty poorly against some of the teams in front of them at that point. Edmonton, at the very least, not only plus 330, but does have those 3 games against Vegas left as well, with a win in the pocket.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Vegas goaltending issue. I feel like the pitchforks are out right now for Adin Hill, and maybe rightfully so. He's given up 17 goals in his 4 starts since coming back. I think that he's still probably hurt a little bit. I do want to say, though, I don't think it helps that the Vegas D-core is not great. Like, this is not the same group that we've seen in years past. This is not the same group that we saw win a Stanley Cup a couple years ago. You don't have Alex Pietrangelo available. Alec Martinez isn't there anymore. Braden McNabb is on injured reserve. You bring in a star to your blue line, Rasmus Andersson, but he's an offensive defenseman. So in terms of actually defending your own end and protecting your net, that's not necessarily what he's known for, right? He is a goal-scoring and assisting style defenseman. He's plus 3 on the season, but also on ice for 2.74 goals against, 5-on-5, compared to, that's more than just about every defenseman, I think, other than Ben Hutton. And Shea Theodore's like 1.64, just for context and what that means. So there's a lot of things that are wrong with Vegas right now. And yet, as you mentioned, though, they're still at the top of the Pacific Division because the division is so bad. I think they have a great coach in Bruce Cassidy, and I think they can work their way out of this as they get healthy. But there are a lot more questions than answers right now with defense and goaltending with Vegas than I anticipated at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, too, one of the things that I thought stuck out in their profile, I think they're about 4th best in terms of high danger chances allowed, and yet they're in the bottom 10 in terms of high danger goals, in terms of the rate that they're converted. So, like, that's, to me, is something where, hey, that's goaltending. Good goaltenders can at least divert away on some of these high danger chances, and that is not something that has really worked for them here throughout this point. So, I know we're going to talk about best bets, but kind of figure Vegas is kind of like this over team, the way that they're playing and in recent form. Kind of a tough road trip. You mentioned the big emotional spot. That was then the big letdown. And then now here, this seems like a pretty tough swing through Canada that they're going through at this point. And I don't know if there's going to be a ton of defense on either side here.
Which that just goes to show, too, how volatile hockey can be and how different games can be on a given night. You beat a team like Toronto in that emotional spot 6-3 and then get torched 7-1 the next game. And both of those, obviously, though, high-scoring games. And to your point, I think that's what we should expect tonight in Montreal, once again, as well, against a Canadiens team that, when they are at home, is much more capable goal scoring as well, but they're also a team that's going to give you some. So this is one that I saw in the best bets at the end of the rundown that we both are on the over 6.5 in this one at -110. I'm surprised, honestly, that it wasn't juiced a little bit more than that. I think we get a lot of goals in this one. Vegas, 6th in the league in goals for per game. Montreal, 5th. The Canadiens, meanwhile, 24th in the league in goals allowed per game. They're better at home than on the road. I also ended up playing the first period over in this game. It's -140, so it's juicy, but going through their recent numbers, they have scored early and often, more often than not. Montreal, first period over for the last 5 games, averaging nearly 2.5 goals per game in the first. Vegas, over in 2 of the last 3 and 6 of their last 10.
Okay, I like it. Can I ask you about a game?
Before we move on, can I just say also, I think Cole Caulfield props could be worthwhile in this game, too, as far as somebody to get the puck in the back of the net. He's been on an absolute heater. But go ahead. I was just curious because I believe Buffalo is in the range of like 18-3-2 or something like that. Their last, they've been on like this ridiculous run since the middle of December. But either way, Buffalo has been red hot. They get Toronto today. This opened up like $1.18, $1.20. Some spots are about like -110, near pick. Is this a time where Toronto can turn this around against a Buffalo team that's been red hot, being short favorites at home? I struggle with the Sabres so much because, I don't think they're as good as they've been playing.
They've been incredibly hot.
But they've been so good, and they're scoring goals like freaking crazy. So I wouldn't want to get in the way of that buzzsaw personally, especially with the way that Toronto has played lately. They've dropped 4 in a row, I think 6 of their last 7. It's been tough for them. Even at home, though, I just don't know if I want to get in the way of Buffalo right now.
I mean, I'll just say this, and again, I am, I like to look at the metrics and the numbers and kind of paint it. I've not watched regular season hockey. At even strength, they're down in a lot, and maybe this has to do with the slow start, but either way for the season at even strength, you're down in terms of shot share, you're down in terms of expected goals for on the season at even strength, high nature chances against, you're in the negative category there too. Everything would scream that Buffalo can't keep doing this. And yet they're still ripping this off.
Think.
So,
there are just certain teams like that even when the Flyers were on that really nice stretch, I was like, I do not believe this, but I kept losing bets because they kept on, for whatever reason, over exceeding expectations. So Buffalo's just not a team I want to get in the way of right now, so I'm going to stay off of that game, but I understand the thought process 100%. Reminder, everybody, as we are in this part of the year, we're talking more hockey, we're talking more NBA, college basketball as well, and ProfitX right now is the #1 place for college hoops player props. They've got all players, all schools, every state that ProfitX is available, and as we get closer to March Madness, you can take advantage of their 20% purchase match. Use the promo code VSIN to get started when you download ProfitX today.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Tobel with you back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Make sure if you want to join in on any of the conversation, you tweet at us at MeJVT, at Storm Buonantony, at VSiN Live, or chime in on the email, moneymoves@vsin.com. And Patrick Kelly, we do appreciate the email, said Kalshi did not accept a market on WIG, WHIG, being mentioned on Money Moves today. Fair.
Political affiliation, yes.
Very fair point.
Of the early 1800s, late 1700s, kind of died out in the mid 1500s or 1800s, if I remember correctly. Which, by the way, people
I didn't know you were such a historian.
People were not living in caves in the 1700s. Just a
rumor has it.
Yeah, shout out there that some influencers might believe that is the case.
When we were living in caves 300 years ago, were we though? Not so sure. Brian M. also tweeting at us. Also be on the lookout for VGK team total over 3.5 at plus money. team totals at Montreal the last few years, 6, 6, 6, and 5. Good note. I know how much you love those.
It's bad juju, though.
Does concern me a bit. Thanks for that, Brian.
I think we'll get to best bets, but as I'm trying to be a good partner and get into the NHL regular season handicapping, I think as you learned last year, I actually really do love betting the NHL playoffs. They're fun. I like series bets, all those sort of things. But the NHL regular season, situation spots, those sort of things have kind of eluded me. So trying to get into a little bit more of these. And it does seem that maybe you get those every once in a while. We'll see if this is one where a series, as we're kind of pointing out here from Brian, that has been pretty high scoring between these two and some goaltending that has been pretty poor for Vegas, that maybe you're going to get over that 6.5 today.
I do have a few more plays in the NHL, but we'll get to that, as you mentioned, in Best Bets coming up in the next segment. But we did have a couple of head coaches officially introduced today in the National Football League. Kevin Stefanski officially introduced in Atlanta, and Mike McCarthy in Pittsburgh. And we talked yesterday about McCarthy getting the head job, and the question that automatically is associated with that is, what does this mean for Aaron Rodgers as part of your ultimately hiring him a ploy or an idea of being able to get Aaron Rodgers to stay for one more year? And is that the right thing for Pittsburgh? Even though, how is that relationship really? I don't know, because Aaron Rodgers had an opportunity to say nice things about Mike McCarthy very recently and elected not to do that. Here is McCarthy on the podium when asked about whether or not he would like Rodgers to stay.
I don't see why you wouldn't, but I think just like anything, knowing Aaron long enough, going through seasons, I think when players, to see Mel Blunt here, I mean, when guys are up at that stage of their career, they need to step away and decompress. I think that's very important. The game is so emotional, what these men commit to and what they put into it. I think that time away is important, and I have spoken to Aaron, and so that's really where we are there.
He also went on to say he watched a lot of Pittsburgh games this year on TV and thought he was a great asset for the team. Definitely would want him back.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to say the right things. I think we kind of learned near the end of that year in that playoff game that I don't know if Aaron Rodgers, from a perspective of being good enough to push a team to a Super Bowl, really has enough left there. So we'll see. I mean, maybe he comes back. Maybe you try to get him in there, and then you try to get some sort of quarterback in. But when there's some free agent options potentially available, can you go and land a Malik Willis type or somebody that can give you that stopgap, or maybe even somebody that you can build around for a couple of years, a la Geno Smith, his first few years in Seattle. Maybe that's going to be an option for you. But I think that's probably one where you say all the right things, but at the end of the day, what would you make the odds that Aaron Rodgers is a Pittsburgh Steelers next year? A Pittsburgh Steeler next year?
It would be plus money.
Yeah, I think so. Is he in the league?
Yeah, I think he should. I don't want to say he should retire, but I think the time is probably run out on him being a top quality quarterback. I mean,
the one that's clearly out there potentially that I think a lot of people are making the connection is the team that he had a brief dalliance with in the offseason last year. Yes. That if Minnesota sees the writing on the wall with J.J. McCarthy and believes that, again, they're kind of – and teams get caught up on this. I mean, my favorite team, the Indianapolis Colts, were doing it for a while, where you get caught up in the we're a quarterback away conversation. And so you continue to try to fill the hole with the veterans that you feel like can give you some sort of presence in that spot that would then push you to the heights that you think that you could achieve. And ultimately – you're just chasing the ghost of a quarterback that doesn't really exist anymore. And again, the Colts are a prime example. I mean, we can go down the list of guys. Phillip Rivers at least made him to the playoffs, but Matthew Ryan, all sorts of guys. Carson Wentz never really happened for him. So maybe
I've never heard him called Matthew Ryan.
Yeah, I call him that. We're buddies.
Really close.
Yeah. I don't know why I did that. That's funny. You're right.
But didn't the Steelers think that a year ago? Like,
sure,
they
right.
probably walked into the season thinking that they were a quarterback away. They bring in Rodgers, and obviously he was not the missing piece.
Off the top of your head, what team believed with their actions that they were a quarterback away actually achieved everything? Tampa? And then that was bringing in the best quarterback of all time and getting there. That's, I think, maybe the biggest and only best example.
And the Rams probably, when they made the swap with Matthew Stafford.
But even
that's a Matthew.
It is a Matthew who tucks his children in at night. Nobody ever does that. And I think, too,
you're such a jerk.
Stafford, he had many more years left in his career. That seemed to be one of those where it had run out in Detroit. Let's see if we can get anything. We flip quarterbacks, and obviously the rest is history. That wasn't hey, this guy's got like 2 years left, and let's see. I mean, he's obviously been now in L.A. for a while and had a lot left. He won a Super Bowl with them, might win an MVP, made it to a conference championship. that there's a little bit more there than just trying to get that last gasp for a guy who's got 1, maybe 2 years left. And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers has 2 years left.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see just what this looks like with the Steelers, because they are, again, going to be like a middle-of-the-pack drafting situation. What are they at quarterback? This defense is so expensive and aging at the rate that they are. Now you bring in a head coach that, is this going to be a rebuild? I'm sure you don't want it to be. So there's a lot of questions, I think, with Pittsburgh, and how funny would it be? And I don't mean, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh fans, to say this, but like, how funny would it be if the first season that Mike Tomlin's not here is your first actual losing season in nearly 20 years? Also, how about Mike McCarthy just getting unbelievable franchises for jobs? Like, as far as the 3 organizations that he's worked for in the Packers, the Cowboys, and now the Steelers, just legendary franchises that he can say he's been the head coach of.
I mean, he's won everywhere he's been. He's quite literally won everywhere he's been.
True.
So
I loved what you said about the John Harbaugh comp the other day. I thought that was great.
100%. If you're excited about John Harbaugh, you got to be excited about McCarthy. If I printed out their resumes and showed them to you, you would have no idea who was who.
They're almost identical.
And yet, if I put their names next to them, you'd be like, I want him. Like, okay. But McCarthy's at least got a track record of building a good enough team to regularly get to that 11-13 win mark, and we'll see what happens, and has a lone Super Bowl on his resume.
All right, last couple minutes here, and we can carry over this conversation into Best Bets next segment. We have a lot of really good college basketball coming on deck tonight. I know games that we're really excited to watch. We already brought up the top 5 matchup that both of us do have a bet in Nebraska and Michigan. Where else would you like to go on the card today?
I mean, like you said, we have Best Bets, but it's hard not to go to Purdue and Indiana, just given the situation the Boilermakers find themselves in at this point. The 12th ranked team in the country who got off to such a hot start and yet went on a California swing, and actually started at home against Iowa. Barely got by the Hawkeyes, then went out to California, scuffled with the Trojans, lost to UCLA, and then came back home and blew a late lead to Illinois over the weekend. And now you've all of a sudden lost 2 straight and have been scuffling quite a bit here in recent weeks. This is a really interesting matchup. Is this a buy low opportunity on the road against Indiana? I think that this might be one for Purdue to kind of get done here. They got the crap beaten out of them on the glass, so maybe you're going to have a little bit more of a focus on your rebounding here. But I just think that maybe we're at a little bit of a market low, despite the struggles here, too. Purdue has not been a good cover team either. We're talking about a squad that is under 500 from their ATS standpoint. So maybe this is finally a time to buy in on Purdue on the road. I know people would think that maybe you want to get back home and get this done, but I think it kind of helps here to kind of get back out there and get back on the horse. Indiana is a team that we know about them on offense. They're going to shoot the crap out of the ball. Over 50% of their attempts come from beyond the arc. Not a great rebounding team, though, on either end, but really in conference play, about 13th in offensive rebounding rate. So it's all about first shot opportunities for them. If those don't go down, all of a sudden you're looking at a Purdue team that I think has the guard play that's good enough to get it here. So you can obviously see where I'm leaning, but take a crack at the low-hanging fruit and see if Purdue can bounce back on the road against Indiana today.
Did want to say as well, just to go back to that Nebraska-Michigan game here quickly, that we have seen this number get back out to the 11.5s. About an hour ago when we were on the air with Adam Burke, those 11.5s were gone. It was 10.5 across the board, and now we have come back out. Adam mentioned the Nebraska cold or flu type maybe of situation that might be going around. I hadn't heard that until he brought it up, but my thought process just in general, and I know it's such a tough place to play out there in Ann Arbor, but the way that Nebraska plays defense, I think, should be able to keep them in this game.
I mean, I just think at the end of the day, it's one of those, I guess we'll call it a play of principle. I'll just take 11.5 with Nebraska.
With an undefeated team.
Michigan has failed to cover 6 straight. The markets, and we had that little debate, I guess you could call it, between Adam and I, where if you look at them in the big picture against some of these top quad 1 teams, Michigan has some really good metrics. A lot of those performances came at the beginning of the year. If you look at them in recent form, they're playing a little bit more like a fringe top 30 team than anything else, but I still think the market is pricing them out just like that. And you see again, I mean, ever since that start of the year where they're blowing teams out, their power rating ballooned and they started to fail to cover these contests. I think this is just one where I'll take the shot on a team that started the year hot, and a lot of their metrics, I think, have inflated their season-long metrics, have inflated the profile here. Michigan's a good team, but I just think Nebraska, I'll take a crack at 11.5, and if I go down, I go down.
Okay, yeah, that is a team play best bet that we have today, taking the 11.5 with the Cornhuskers. We'll give out the rest of our best bets coming up after this. Why I think the worst team in the NHL gets worse again tonight, and I continue to fade them. A handful of hockey plays going in the account tonight. We'll be right back on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Tuesday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV, the VSiN Watch app, wherever you're watching or listening. We appreciate it. Remember as well, if you miss any of the program any day, you can always download Money Moves in podcast form wherever you get your podcast. You are cheesing right now.
We were talking about this off the air on Twitter yesterday. For some reason, this clip of Max Crosby post-game on a Thursday Night Football came on my timeline, and he's ripping a cigar and inhaling it like an absolute psychopath, full on just, and I'm just laughing because I'm watching it again. Like, he takes such a fat rip of this cigar and downs it, and that is just psycho person behavior.
And you're judging me because I was...
Well, you had no idea.
I was like, I don't get it.
You watched the 12-second clip, and you were just like, I don't understand what I'm watching.
That's I'm not fun. I've never really smoked anything, and so I didn't realize that you can't do that with a cigar.
Well, you can,
like
apparently.
You could with weed. But yeah, like lungs of steel, that Max Crosby.
You're not supposed to. But my man French inhales a cigar like I don't even know what the term I would use is. It's absolute psychopath behavior. And the Raiders are still looking for a head coach.
And I still stand by the fact that I cannot wait for Fernando Mendoza and Max Crosby to just be bonding and be best friends.
Well, they won't be. He's getting traded.
You think?
I mean, there are signs kind of away from the team. I don't know if you saw his interview the other day, 2 or 3 days ago. I don't know where he was at. But was asked essentially like, hey, what's your communication like with the team? He's like, I haven't talked to him for weeks or a month or something like that. So look, the Raiders finally did the smart thing at the end of the year when they decided to bench guys like Crosby, excuse me, and put some young guys in the lineup.
Are you getting sick?
No, I'm not. I'm choking on my spit. And
you didn't need a peanut?
Put some young guys in the lineup to tank, right? I think they're finally starting to go down the path that they hired John Spytek for. And ultimately, I also think that means Spytek realizes he has a rebuild on his hands, and he has an asset that is worth trading, and I think that might lead to him being on the way out.
Okay. From the Raider side of things, I feel like you've been itching to talk about Davis Webb as well.
I think we mentioned it. I just think it's pretty fascinating that all these teams were waiting. They were waiting to interview Davis Webb, and I shouldn't say all these teams, a couple of these teams. And then all of a sudden, just like that, boom, the Bills decide, oh, okay, yeah, like we're going to go with Joe Brady. So, who knows? I mean, I think it seems pretty clear that the rumors would be pointing to Kubiak, Clint Kubiak, being the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. They got to wait for him to be available because the Seahawks, of course, are still in action. But I think Brady wants him. I think if you listen to that broadcast on Sunday, you understand that Brady really wanted him. And Kubiak did a great job. I mean, you look at the different places in which he was lining up Jackson Smith and Jigba and getting his guys open, leading to a really strong performance by Sam Darnold. I think I'm not the only person who was doing this, but nerding out over the fact that one touchdown pass where he puts him in the backfield behind Cooper Kupp and gets him free, wide open in the end zone against the Rams. There is an ingenuity there that I think will help bringing along a young quarterback like Fernando Mendoza. And again, going back to just kind of reading the writing on the wall, if you're finally starting to go down this path of allowing the forward-thinking GM to do his job, then part of that would be pairing him with a youngish-oriented offensive mind with a quarterback coming in with the first overall pick. I will, we're a week away from going back out to San Francisco for Radio Row. I'll tell this story one more time. Out in New Orleans last year, because I worked with ESPN Las Vegas and Raider Nation Radio, you don't know how many people came up to us just out of nowhere and saw that we were from Vegas and said, Spytek's going to be great. Just out of nowhere. We got an interview with Gerald McCoy because he was like, oh, you guys are from Vegas? Spytek's awesome. And we were like, want to talk about it? And he came down and said, there was a lot of people who did that last year. So I'm kind of thinking that we're seeing the signs that the Raiders organization is finally letting this happen. Okay. We'll see if that's the case. In 2 weeks, I don't know, maybe they just hire Mike Tomlin and bring him out of retirement. But I think that there are some signs that they're starting to look forward a little bit here, and that's a good sign.
That is, real quickly, a good sidebar as well. Tomlin, somebody who the expectation is he's not going to be in the coaching cycle at all this year. He is kind of wants to take a year away, step back. Similarly, when we talked about Joe Brady getting promoted from offensive coordinator to head coach with the Buffalo Bills, failed to mention Sean McDermott also planning on taking that year aside. He's not going to be a part of this coaching cycle this year. Maybe see what openings there are next year and where he might fit. Okay, last couple minutes here. Let's get to the best bets. We'll start with the recap from last night. I did have Arizona -1.5 at BYU. That comes home, albeit barely, even though they should have covered no problem. Again, we mentioned this earlier, up 13 at halftime, up 19 midway through the second half, and yet it's a 1-point game in the dwindling seconds of this thing. So we got through. We got the win and cover with Arizona, who remains undefeated.
That yesterday, and then somebody tweets you like, nice play.
Nice play. Way to go. Blonde bimbo on the desk. Let's get to the plays for today.
It's a little dark. I didn't go there.
I mean, I don't know. I'm in someone's glossary as the blonde betting bimbo in the betting world. So there's that for you, girl.
You've been reading my diary?
Look at us go. How did you know? Got it from under the pillow. Looking forward to tonight. We already mentioned the Nebraska plus 11.5. That's something that we both have in pocket. So I did add that. Ken Palm has this 9. I did put it in order. It's in the doc on our rundown. It is in order. I think
Sharks money line is a play that you've got today too.
It is minus 124. I think it's a cheap money line on a Sharks team who's been one of the more pleasant surprises in the NHL this season. I mentioned in the tease that I'm going to continue fading the worst team in the NHL, which is the Vancouver Canucks right now, 17-30-5. They are even worse at home, 5-16-3, dropped 15 of their last 17 games overall. 9 of those losses also on the puck line. And I was even looking at these last 4 games because you look at their schedule and you see, okay, well, their last 4 games all decided by 1 goal. They were close. They were facing a deficit in all of them. They were down 3-0 and 4-2 to the Devils, down 3-0 to the Pens, down 2-0 to the Caps, down 4-2 to the Isles. They're trading off pieces left and right. We mentioned Kiefer Sherwood, who I think is going to play today. I think his debut is going to actually be against his former team. Quinn Hughes is gone. Evander Kane, I guess, is now allowed to pursue a trade as well. So there's a lot of different things going on. I think the Canucks are terrible. Their schedule is just going to get worse. They've got the Ducks who are playing better, the Leafs at Utah and at Vegas all on deck. So I think that this spiral is going to continue for a little while, and the Sharks seem cheap in this spot.
Cool. What else you got?
Well, now I'm curious. Throw it up on the graphic and tell me where I need to go next. Okay, so yeah, we got the Golden Knights and Canadians over 6. It's at you. It's not directed at you guys back there. It's all directed at this guy to my left.
Trying to help you.
The Golden Knights and Canadians over 6.5. We talked about the goaltending and defensive issues with the Golden Knights, and the Canadians are capable of scoring better at home, and we know that they're good to give up some as well. So over for the full game, which has been a trend for both of these teams recently, as has the first period over at minus 1.5. Minus 140, I believe, was the price on that one. I'm rolling with a Cole Caulfield anytime goal in this game as well. 4th in the league in goals. He's had 10 in January alone, 8 the last 5 games with at least 1 in each. Had a goal and an assist in the first meeting with Vegas in November. I see him netting one tonight at plus 155. And the Panthers on the 60-minute money line, even money against the Utah Mammoth tonight. I feel like this is a spot with the Mammoth on the second half of a back-to-back. Opened plus 145, now as low as plus 26 in the market. I just couldn't get on board with Utah in this spot. I think that with the Panthers starting to get a little bit healthier, this could be a good bounce back spot for them.
Okay. All right. I like it. See? And you have Nebraska plus 11.5, just like I do. So let's start there. Nebraska plus 11.5.
I did put it in order.
So we got with the Huskers. We've talked about this a lot, so that'll be one that we will ride with. You've heard us here. Purdue minus 4.5 against Indiana. We'll see if they can get this thing done here. UMass plus 9.5. A week ago, all right, this is a late edition. I know it's probably not on here. It was a late one. A week ago, played Kent State against Miami, Ohio, and they lost it. Let go of the rope in overtime. We're doing it again. Miami, Ohio has not played since. I am going to continue to try this out. UMass plus 9.5 on the road against Miami, Ohio.
Why aren't you going in order?
Because it was a late play if you were listening to me, and it's not part of the graphic because this is Knights and Canadiens over 6.5 and minus 110. See, I pay attention.
Do you, though?
I do, actually.
Sometimes.
I would venture a guess that our production crew, in terms of following what we're supposed to do here, like me better than you.
I'm sure, yeah, because the graphics throw me off. The reveal is always going to throw me off.
The thing we planned for throws you off?
But it's not, though.
The thing that we have planned and listed out?
But I'm saying this is the one time I'm actually feeling like I'm doing it right, and I screw it up still. I can't win.
It's a tough life.
What's a girl to do?
It's a tough life.
I don't know.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
You're the leader of the you're the leader of the show.
I don't know. All you're doing is telling me how bad I am at my job anyways. I might as well just shut up and let you close us out.
That's not true. But folks, remember,
we've got a minute,
since we
8
are
seconds
here,
left. Finish it.
Remember, go to VSiN.com, use the promo code MONEY while we're talking about this. You can check out all of our specials. You get that too, and you can have a lot of great fun signing up for what we have here at this point. Or seriously, $180. It used to be $240. Daily best bets, exclusive betting splits, access to the betting tools. I say constantly that some of our tools, including our player prop stuff, stuff. Some of the most underrated things we have up on the website. Absolutely worth it, plus all of the written content as well. So why not give it a shot here? Go to vsin.com/subscribe. Use the promo code MONEY. And a reminder for you as well as we get closer to the big game. A lot of great content here on the show. Like, rate, review, subscribe, and download Money Moves wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, do it. That's a wrap for us today, but Follow the Money is coming up next with Mitch and Paul. And reminder, as we were just talking about the Raiders, they are going to have Raiders radio and sports talk here in Vegas. JT the Brick, one of your favorites, on the program today, talking all things Super Bowl and beyond. We'll also have VSiN Primetime a little bit later on and Cashing Out with Dustin Sweetelson in the evening. That's a wrap for us.
It's a good one.
Have a great day, everybody.